right, coming to you with the next installment of the Silage Zone. Today we're going to talk primarily about the storage portion. And in particular, we're going to talk about what we can do to minimize shrink when it comes to our stored forages. And the challenge with shrink is a lot of times it's invisible. You can't hardly see it, but we're going to talk about those things that do cause it and what we can do to prevent that. And the two biggest enemies that we have when it comes to stored forage is going to be air. In other words, getting it out of the silage pile initially and then keeping it out, and then water. After we've got it stored, getting that water away from the silage so that it doesn't cause a problem for us later on. So we've got several things that we're going to cover, and I want to share a few slides with you about what that looks like, but we're only going to cover one portion of it today, and then I'll follow up with two more parts right after that. So ideally, we'd love to think about having zero shrink, but that's really not practical. If you look at the next slide, this is some work from Muck and Holmes from the USDA Forage Research Center that showed the different percentages of losses across the different types of storage facilities. You can see that two of them are uncovered. We really won't concentrate on those, and all we're going to concentrate on today is that first column around filling. So you look at the very end though, on the totals, we've got anywhere from a minimum of 16, 17, or 9% shrink on covered piles, bunkers, and bags. Why is this important? Well, of course, the reason it's important is because it's money out of your pocket. Anything we can do to decrease shrink, say by 5%, that's right now about $1.89 on every ton of silage you harvest. And why do we say $1.89? Because we're basing it on corn. Those are the nutrients that you're losing, the most available nutrients there are in that pile of silage that you're putting up. And so we have to replace that if it gets lost in that shrink portion. All right, so we're going to go and we look again, 16 to 31, 17 to 34, 9 to 14. That's our opportunity to reduce those. So if we look at the ones that have been covered or the bags, that $1.89, if we have a 5% shrink reduction at 45 pounds of corn silage per cow per day, over 365 days, that's $1,552 per 100 cows. That's quite an opportunity if we can reduce it from 31 down to 26 or 34 down to 29 or 14 down to 9. And if we can do even more, then the opportunity is even larger. So again, the first one that we're talking about today is around the packing or filling. So we've got opportunities there anywhere from 1 to 2% to 3 to 7 to 2 to 6. And the main loss there is primarily related around plant cell respiration. In other words, we've got air in that silage pile because of how we've packed it or how we didn't get it packed that allows those aerobic organisms to continue that secondary fermentation. So what's the big numbers that we got to remember? If there's a number that I want you to remember from today, it's 800. We want 800 pounds of tractor on that pile per ton of silage that's coming in there per hour. We've got to get close to that to make sure that we have enough weight on that pile to get that air moved out of that silage as we're bringing it in. So 800 pounds. And if you have a question about what that is on your equipment, go to tractordata.com and it'll tell you exactly what your equipment weighs, or get it close to where you can start doing the calculations. The next one, when we especially talk about piles, is that we make sure we maintain that 3 to 1 slope. In other words, 1 foot of rise for every 3 foot of run. If we don't, we're going to end up with a pile that is too steep to where we can't get that hydraulic pressure of the silage and or the equipment to weigh down on it to get that pack we want. The next big number, besides 1 to 3 or 30-degree angle, is less than 6 inches with each layer that's going up there. We want to build a road and pack it tight to where it's really going to get that air out. So, as you can see on this next slide, there's a great example of where they went way over that 3 to 1 slope. In the lower right hand, you can see where that would be if you drew it in, and that really exemplifies what it should look like compared to what that picture is. The next one is a pile that I worked with down in southern Wisconsin that shows a really drastic example of too steep of a slope for the footprint they had, and the following slide actually shows what that looks like on an infrared camera, and you can see on that slope we have a difference of over 51 degrees from that top portion to the center of that silage pile, and it means that is going through a lot of extra fermentation, that we're losing that dry matter. So to wrap it up for today, we've got to look at what we're doing in the way of that packing. And the big numbers again are 800 pounds of tractor per ton of silage coming in, that we've got that 3-to-1 slope factor, and that we basically are making sure that we get the air out of that silage and keeping the water away. Best fixes are going to be about planning ahead of time to make sure we got the right equipment, the right personnel for the rate that silage is coming in during packing. Until we talk about the next section, that's it for today.
That concludes this Pioneer Growing Point Agronomy video podcast. Visit our page on pioneer.com and follow us on Twitter and Facebook for more agronomy insights.